Hi, I'm Charles. I direct and own the Kaleidoscope Rock Academy and Kaleidoscope School of Music here in the Seattle area. And this is the next video in a series I've been running about music notations from a guitarist perspective, or music notation for guitarists. This one has to do with what the best tool is for writing down and communicating right-hand picking patterns. So this would be useful for songs where predominantly you're arpeggiating chords or doing picking patterns, either with fingers or with a pick. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking those type of picking patterns or these. Either way, this would be a good way to notate those with the least complication. As I've said before in this series, I don't think that tab is the best way to notate a song like that, because it's kind of like tell you what the trees are over and over again instead of just saying, hey, you already know the forest. Don't know if I'm stretching that metaphor there. But if you know that every note you're going to be playing for a measure, say, is part of a C chord, all you need to do is write C above that measure, and then you can notate what you're playing by just using string numbers. So the string numbers that are commonly used for guitar are 6 on top down to 1 on the bottom, 1 being the skinniest. Sometimes students want to flip that around, so I just say, just remember that they're numbered in order of thickness. So 6 being the thickest one, that's the bassiest tone that's on top. Guitar is kind of an upside down instrument. I usually tell that to students right away. So let's look at some examples of what you might write down this way. So these are from notes I've done with students one-on-one. This one is Behind Blue Eyes by The Who. And this is a great example, actually. The intro to this, the first chord, is a great example I'm talking about, because the entire thing is built out of the E sus4 chord. So the only thing you need to communicate that part of the equation to someone who is reading your notation of the song would be either the name E sus4, or if they don't know what an E sus4 is, as in the case of this student I wrote this out for in 2001, I just drew a picture of the E sus4. So you know that applies to the whole first line then. And all you need to do is read the numbers to figure out what to do. There's no reason to keep restating all those fret positions for your left hand with tab. So I'm going to try, I haven't played this for a while, I'm just going to try to sight read what I wrote. Whoops. So all of that I got out of just that string of numbers. I did kind of make up a notation for this particular song where I put a little pair of parentheses to show a gap in the pattern, like, because that was a way of showing a rhythm. But otherwise, I'm just looking purely at that string of numbers, hitting the strings that corresponds, and I did a pretty good job of imitating the intro. When it gets to the verse, I changed to an E minor chord. That's a little more steady pattern. It's all eighth notes. I can kind of infer that from between the two bar lines. There's 8 numbers. So those 8 numbers represent the strings again. Whoops. But that's my pattern for 2 chords in a row. So I changed to G, and the little division sign just means do that pattern again. Now here's where it got a little bit messier. I think I've learned over the years of teaching to be a little bit neater. But nonetheless, this is still accurate. So I've got my D chord. And then there's a little embellishment. So the way I wrote that down was change to a D sus4 chord. This particular student knew what that meant. You can always look that chord up, but it means put your pinky on the 1st string 3rd fret. So for that was. So if I put that series of D chords together, it's. Well, I'm not sure I did that quite right. See, I'm actually demonstrating my sight reading ability here, or, you know. That was closer. And then C add 9 and drew a picture for the student. Division sign, do it again. That definitely sounds like the song. I think one of the advantages of this type of way of writing things down, too, is instead of thinking about all those numbers, you're right away thinking, this is mostly a chord. Pete Townsend arpeggiated this. Maybe I can do it in a slightly similar way, as long as I follow the chord pattern. I'm going to get the right result. You don't always have to read every single detail, but it encourages you to see that bigger picture of the chord progression instead of getting lost in all the details of like all these numbers in tab for what really is just like a 4 or 5 chord pattern. Let's look at another example, because sometimes there's some failings in this methodology. But let's look at Landslide here, famous Fleetwood Mac song. Just for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to like put a capo on. I believe this does need a capo, but I'm just gonna read that. So I made up I actually first learned this notation from my childhood guitar teacher, which I've referenced in other videos, Rick Sherby. He could not use tab for the most part, but he did use this method of communicating how you play more complicated arpeggiating songs. So I don't remember if I got this part of the notation from him, but for students, if something is simultaneous, like you're using your 2 of your right hand fingers to grab 2 strings at the same time, you just write 5 for 5th string / 2 for 2nd string. So this is a common like Travis style picking pattern. So how I wrote it down was you start with those 2 events that happen at the same time there, and then the rest of it's just straightforward reading of the strings. So that's the basic pattern. I also was able to, just like I do with tab, I was able to draw the traditional rhythm beams above these to show that the first one's an 8th note and the rest of them are 16ths. We didn't have to do that, but it makes it a little bit more clear. As I look at the rest of the song, like you look at the line where it says A7 and A, and then I have a little bit of an issue where I've got a little embellishment to the left hand. So this is something I did get from Rich, that if you need to specify something that changes the architecture of the chord, you can consider the first line of numbers the string, and then the second line can be like a fret line that you just write in when you need it. So in this case, you're playing an A chord, but you play strings 5 and 3 together, and then for the event that's right underneath the name A7, you're supposed to remove a finger so that you're able to play a 3rd string open. That's why the fret line says 0 there. So if I put that all together, I'm taking that finger off, which in essence creates an A7 chord, and then I'm putting it back on where it says string 3 fret 2 on the second line. So that would be like, and that enables me to write down an embellishment to that chord without resorting to going back to tab. I need to have a way to adjust this finger-picking notation to take into account some of those little changes that happen without abandoning the whole approach. So if I play the main theme here, the other thing is there's another embellishment I skipped over, which is a G over B where it says 2 pull off 2. The only thing I can consider pulling off there would be the finger that's already on the 2nd string. So it says play the 2nd string and pull it off, which you have to kind of read between the lines. That means pull off to open. I could have made that more specific by putting that fret line underneath and having it go 2 pull off to 2 0 with a 0 designation on the fret line, but I didn't do that when I wrote this. So even though I've taken into account those little smaller details, I'm still keeping my brain, or my student's brain, focused on the overall chord pattern, which is C, G over B, A7, or actually A, G over B, instead of thinking about all the smaller details as being the actual meat of the thing. Let's take another example. This is Californication by the Chili Peppers, and this again has that second line of fret underneath the string notation line. So it's saying that I've got, so even though I'm specifying A minor, the first event that I hit on the 2nd string says 2nd string 0, so 2nd string open, and then the 2nd string gets plucked again, and that's bringing my finger into the 1st fret there. And then it says hold it for a whole note. And then this is kind of a strange looking F chord, so I drew a picture of it with a chord frame up above. And then 6th string, 5th string, 3rd string open, 3rd string, 2nd fret. And then the next next line is a little bit simpler. And then that says F major 7. So the second line was just straightforward finger picking notation. But that gave me a great way of writing down that intro, and again, in a way that keeps me focused on the fact that the chords are A minor, F, C, G, F major 7, D minor. Let's take another example. This one is Building a Mystery by Sarah McLachlan. 90s era song. Gotta make it a little bit bigger for the old eyeballs here. So this one, it says 5th string bar, so I'm telling the person I want a particular B minor chord. And then I've got that 3/2 notation. They're saying that the 3rd string and 2nd string are simultaneous. So it's so you see there's an overarching pattern here where you play the root, you play another note, and then you play 2 strings together. The notation underneath that, we should mention, the P-I-M-A thing, that is the classical or flamenco designation in Spanish for the right-hand fingers. I have adopted using that because the same reason why it's in classical music. There's so many numbers abounding in music, whether it's counting, fret, left-hand finger, string number. So in this case, we're not using numbers for the right hand. We're going to use these P-I-M-A letters borrowed from classical notation. So if you were going to play this with fingers as opposed to pick, you would play it thumb, index, P, index, and then M and A are together. So that's M/A. So again, it's... I have seen some folk-oriented books where instead of using the Spanish letters, they use T-I-M-R for thumb, index, middle, ring. Same exact concept, same exact reason, just a little bit different set of letters. And then the rest of this chart actually goes into more chord charting notation, which was my last video. But this particular form of finger-picking notation was great for teaching the intro to the song. Okay, this is Kryptonite by Krigor's Gang. So this one, hey, just happens to be B minor again. I am using some rhythm notation there, so it's 5/4-3-2, and then that's hanging over to tie to an unstated 2nd string that's being held. And you've got 3 more 8th notes in that bar, 3/4-3, and instead of writing O on the fret line, I just wrote open, same kind of concept, so that's going to be... So I've got 5/4-3-2, hang for 2nd, 3/4, open, and then... Apparently I disagree with myself on this one, so I originally wrote 6/4-3-2, but then penciled in later 6/5-4-3, and then A sus2. And what's really funny is the 4th ending of this pattern is, it says no chord or no fingers there, it's just, it's kind of a nothing A chord where every string is open. So that group of examples is really, I think, really solid in showing why you would use this, how it gets popular songs across, and how you handle some of the permutations that happen in music. One more quick thing in this video, I did discover recently a different way to do this in a lesson, so I'm going to write that out on my tablet here. So this would be the idea of, instead of using numbers to write the chord name, and if you're in the middle of using tab for maybe some other part of the song, you write your 6 tab lines, and then you can just write X's on the proper string. So if I go back to Building a Mystery, I would write Building a Mystery as this series of X's on the appropriate strings. This has, again, the advantage of not getting you focused on all these unnecessary fret numbers. You look up the name of the chord, B minor, you go, that's what I'm supposed to put my left hand on. So once I'm on the B minor, I can just follow the X's on the tab lines to designate what string I'm supposed to hit. So I can write all the chords in that way. I can write X's on top of each other for simultaneous. I don't necessarily think this is easier to read than what I've been going over earlier in this video. I think the numbers for the strings might be clearer. But again, I think having a variety of tools is really helpful. So if this was in the middle of a song that was otherwise using a lot of tab, it might be a nice way to get that across. Again, this is a form of notation that I picked up from my childhood guitar teacher that sadly is not represented much online. Most of the stuff online is either straight up chords and lyrics or straight up tab. This is one of those really effective tools that I think should be used probably more often. And as a guitar teacher, I'm glad that I have all these different tools to communicate things to students. So I hope you enjoyed this video about another form of music notation, finger picking patterns, or more appropriately, picking patterns, because sometimes you are using a pick to do this. Again, feel empowered to adopt some of these different ways of doing music notation for your own learning and your own notation, writing things down for the people in your band, whatever. Do not feel like there's only one way to do this, because there are many, and this is another good one. So thanks for checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next installment of Music Notation for Guitarists.